recommendation from one of the best schools in the whole world about how nice and polite and kind you are and how many friends you have for the other people. That's a great thing to have. So please try, not only for the fun and the good-heartedness of making friends, but for your resume. Be nice to one another. What a great chance that you have. You know, be sure to try to do that the best you possibly can. Social skills. Social skills differ from one culture to another. In some cultures, it's very polite to be looking down and not to be saying anything whatsoever. You should be heard and not spoken. In other cultures, that's not a very good social skill at all. One of the most common issues, and I see it all the time when the students are going to apply to the interview. They're going to a brand new school. Wow, I'm an 8th grader, you know, and I'm going to a high school. So I'm walking in like, oh boy, am I nervous to begin with as it is already. The famous such and such school. And then they say, well, say hello to your tour guide, Billy. You go, hi. You don't know whether to shake their hand or look or what. It's awkward. You know, have you ever seen that happen? You don't know what to do? You can avoid that situation from happening by you taking the lead. In the United States, it's completely appropriate for you to walk around and say, hi, Billy, how are you doing? My name is Tatiana. Tatiana? Anastasia, okay. Anastasia. Hi, my name is Anastasia. How are you doing? And then it makes that person feel more comfortable because you're confident. You're friendly. You have enough confidence in yourself to be able to walk up and say hello. You look the person right in the eye and you try to remember their name. It's a trick to try to remember people's names. Most people, when you meet somebody, they're not even thinking about, oh, I got to try to remember their name. But when you go in to interview or tour a high school, try very hard to remember the person's name and try to use that person's name. It will help them remember that you know them. So did anybody say, thank you, Mrs. O'Brien, yesterday? Not one person said, thank you, Mrs. O'Brien. Does anybody remember that her name was Mrs. O'Brien? I'm not really sure. But when you do this the next time, one of the reasons that I brought that school here was because I have a pretty good idea that not very many people are going to apply to that school. So it was kind of like a test run, a test drive, a practice session. Because to be real honest with you, we really did not very well yesterday with our body language. We were boring. We were no energy in the room whatsoever. We didn't ask any questions, but we did pay attention. And very few of you had a smile on your face. Remember, a few of you were here for 7 weeks. The very first one we talked about was when you're not sure what you're supposed to do, what are you supposed to do?
Smile.
Simply smile. All you got to do is smile. And it's okay. That's comfortable. You don't have to do it. It's very comfortable. Just smile. Not a single person smiled except for very few people yesterday. So remember to try to smile, be positive, and have good social skills. Remember their name. What's the best way to remember somebody's name? And it doesn't have to be an admissions director. When you go off to your high school and you have a roommate and your friends down the hallway, it's probably a good idea to remember their names too, because you're going to become friends with them. What's the best way to remember somebody's name? Writing it down is good. That's a good way of doing it. What do you think?
Like some people's name will be brown or black or some color. So we can make
a memorization technique. Okay, you're using a memorization technique. That's pretty good, but there's the easiest way to do it is to use it, to say it right away. And if you were to say it 3 times in a very close period of time together, you're much, much more likely to remember that name. So like, for instance, you come in and say, hi, Anastasia, we're going to meet Mrs. O'Brien. And you say, hi, Mrs. O'Brien, how are you doing? What? Mrs. O'Brien, how was your trip? I have a question, Mrs. O'Brien. Boy, now you got it down. Now you remember the name, I bet you. So try to use the name 3 times in a short period of time, you know, and you'll almost always remember their name. Okay? And it's impressive, they'll remember you. Okay, let's take a look at what else we have here to talk a little bit about. Yeah, so in the United States, one of the most important things is and intelligence or test scores. In the United